Welcome, everyone. Welcome to another day at Your Body Awakening series. I am your host, Alexandra Montfort, and I have with us today two wonderful speakers. You guys are really spoiled because this is the second interview. We have two speakers for you. And so the first one I'm going to introduce, her name is Cheryl Hubert. She is a certified Tantra teacher and educator. She is a certified wellness coach, and she promotes living authentically, as well as teaching her clients how to, the benefits of self-healing. And she also guides her clients towards their life's bliss. Now, our second speaker is Kim Keller. She is a tantrika. She is a sex educator as well as an intimacy coach. She works with men, women, and couples, guiding them towards improving their sexuality, experiencing more pleasure, more joy, more intimacy, and just a much more fulfilling life. So thank you so much for both of you for being here with us today.
Thank you.
Excited to be here. What a fun offer. Thank you. Thanks for calling.
So as I ask all my experts, I want to know, how did you get started? What did your journey look like? How did you arrive to where you are today?
Great. Perfect. That's a great place to start. I also want to say expert.
Oh, expert.
Expert.
We'll get to that soon.
Yeah. So I'm going to do it real briefly so that Cheryl and I both have plenty of time. But I was a mother of two, married for 23 years in Southern California. Just couldn't have been more traditional in so many ways. And then ended up surprise divorce out of the blue, and found Tantra. And when I found Tantra, I knew I was entering into this whole new piece of my life and not having any idea really what that meant. And then a girlfriend dragged me to my first Tantra weekend, and I sat in the front row of the Tantra weekend thinking, what the heck are these people talking about? And discovered that there was a whole part of me and my life and my own intimate relationship with myself, as well as with a partner and with sexuality in general, that I totally did not know about. And that was the really sacred aspect of what it means to be fully embodied and then be able to use that presence in my interaction with my love. So that's my short story.
Awesome.
Wow, I love it. My story started in my 20s when I remember being in university and starting to buy books on sexuality and all kinds of, how to be a better lover. I didn't know. No one educated me on how to function in relationship, about sexuality, and so on. And that was my real beginning in many ways. I was dealing with other things, some other challenges in my life. What I was doing wasn't working. So as I started to seek out the answers for my own wellness, I started taking classes, I started meeting people, reading great books, and I found my calling. So with each new offering, it's been my own personal growth that's been the reason. And that's the whole reason I started studying Tantra, and Jade Egg was my own self-healing. Everything that I study and learn that helps me, I then offer it. Mm-hmm. I wait till it works on me first.
Yeah. Well, I think that's how could I say? I would say a quality. I'm trying to look for another word of a great teacher is knowing how something functions. Because if you've experienced the benefit of it, then you believe and you know that it's going to work for the people you're helping. So absolutely, that's one of them.
Yeah.
So I want to start by asking you to, can we please talk about what is sensuality? I'm under the impression that people, when they think about sensuality, they're thinking about eroticism, and there is something that is intertwined between the two. But just sensuality in general and how it relates to sexuality, can you just explain what it is?
You want to go first, Kim?
Sure. Because one of the terms I'd like to offer is what I call erotic innocence. And that is that we carry an erotic innocence. We're born with the feeling, the love of being touched. In fact, when we're babies, if we're not touched enough, we're going to die, literally. And so it's very elemental and necessary to our very life force. And so that erotic innocence, if you watch a baby who is innocently touching themselves and sucking on things and touching things, and you wonder, why is that baby doing that? Because it feels good. And that we have a system in our body. There's a book I always like to recommend if I get a chance, which is Vagina, a New Biography by Naomi Wolf, who talks about the health benefits, requirements, and necessary piece of our body's pleasure centers in order to keep us healthy and happy and whole. And that our pleasure, they talk about pleasure sort of being like a disposable income, but the actuality is it's a primary ingredient to our overall wellness. And the sensual piece is what adds to us then getting those chemicals flowing through our body and keeping us healthy, alive, vital, and awake. Cheryl?
Thank you.
Yeah, I'll talk about it in the Jade Egg context, just to add a little bit extra, because we are doing that Jade Egg and sensuality theme, is that what I've noticed within myself and other women in terms of sensuality with Jade Egg practice is that because we're sort of starting to tap into the internal workings of our body, wearing a Jade Egg internally, we start to feel more, because as women, we're often cut off at the waist. We don't actually feel more down there, right?
Yeah.
And so as we start to wake up those sensual centers in the body, it's like everything feels different. So your sensuality shifts in so many levels, where a lover's touch changes, the way you touch a lover, the way the air feels on your skin, the way food tastes. So there's a lot of sensual openings that occur as a result of the Jade Egg practice as well. Yeah.
That gave me a little shivers.
I know. I know. This is what people do. Women giggle. We start talking about this stuff and we giggle.
Yeah. And something I want to say about that I'm appreciating as I'm listening to Cheryl talk, and that is that Cheryl and I both have non-sexual, sensual history as coaches, counselors. Yes. She has a whole practice that she's had for years. I worked for 25 years with teenagers, and I was a program development manager for a youth program. And I often wonder how many of my old students end up seeing me in this context and go, "Oh my God, it's Kim," because I always talk to them about sex. It always came up. Nobody else was talking to them about sex. Right. And somebody needs to be talking to them about sex. And that's part of what I really want to inspire us to do, is start to make this conversation and this dialogue really normal. Like, this is not a big deal. It is, I have a vagina like I have a foot. And how come I can't talk about one, but I can talk about the other? They are equally important to my body.
You know, if I can add something, I love that you shared that, because I do have a long history, a few decades of working with women and couples and children in energy healing and counseling and coaching and so on. So to add this was just going a level deeper and having the conversations in groups of women or in groups of couples that we all want to have, but we don't have.
Yeah.
Answering the questions that have been, meandering around our minds since we reached puberty.
Yeah.
So yeah, thank you for that, Kim. So when people see me start talking about this, they go, what's she doing now? But it's really just a natural progression, even as a yoga teacher, to start, studying Tantra yoga and so on. Yeah.
Oh my God. I could run off with this conversation. I'm just going to add to what both of you said. This is really important. I'm part of a group. Well, it ended, but at my university, we had 9 weeks of teaching our bachelor students how to talk to teenagers and children about sexuality. And it was, you could see how difficult it was, like, for people, like, if a child say, as they heard their parents talk about sex, and they're asking, but what is sex? How do we respond? And we come up with all these complex ways to try to tell the child what it means, it's all about age appropriate information, keeping it simple depending on the age, where maybe at an older teenage age you could go into the complexity of things. And concept.
And I want to say, you're right. We could riff on this all day long, but one of the things about that is how unintentionally then we can pass on shame and guilt and make wrong around sexuality by being freaked out about how to answer it. When I can just talk to you as if this is just what it is, and yes, you have a penis and you have a vagina, then you can get rid of the stigma and be able to get into healthy conversations about our sensuality.
Absolutely.
Great. We're gonna
let's get back on track.
It's all part of it, though, right? It's, because even people now, I mean, so many people will shyly ask me, send me a little text. They know I'm doing all this stuff. There's no way they're going to ask me in a public forum, So it's normalizing these conversations.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, Cheryl, you've talked a little bit about our Jade Eggs, but I'm sure there's some of our audience that do not know what is it that we're really talking about. So can you explain what are Jade Eggs, sometimes also known as yoni eggs?
Okay, right. Yoni eggs, Jade eggs. Jade egg, well, it's an actual egg. And the Jade Egg is a tool that we use as a way to start to awaken our sensual centers, to start to drop more deeply into who we are as a woman. So do you want me to talk about the practice or the egg itself, or Jade? Because it's a big topic.
Oh, wow. I wanted us to talk about the practice and the benefits of using a crystal Jade Egg.
Okay.
Crystal Jade Egg. Okay. Yes, Kelly. I'm Kim.
Oh man, I could talk all day.
Yeah, we could go a long time on this. So I like to do that. There's 4 areas of the eggs, and they're stone eggs, and so they're made out of jade, which we can talk about. But the reason that we use the stone egg inside of our vagina, and so it is an internal practice, is it helps heal 4 areas. The first one is the physical, which is the one that most women come to me first for. They're coming because they're having vaginal pain or dryness, or they're having flora-fauna imbalance, or they want to have more pleasure, or they want to get better at sex, or they want something more on that physical level, and it works on all of that. Works great for PMS, works good for menopause, menopausal symptoms. It helps enliven, and get us closer to our pleasure. So the first part is the physical, including helping with incontinence, with vaginal strength, and with vaginal health that way. The second one is that it creates an opportunity for us to do some repatterning in how we think, feel, and interact with our own genitalia and our own sacred landscape. And so there's a repatterning that helps move us away from guilt and shame. There is an emotional healing point part. It works as a pressure point tool inside the vagina and helps to remove and massage and move out pain, trauma. Women who've had different kinds of everything from childbirth to unwanted sexual advancement to yoni, just ignoring our yonis. I'll tell you what yoni is in a minute. And then the last one is a spiritual or energetic connection with self, that we drop into a meditative space, and then that gives us more connection to higher guidance, whatever that is for you in your field of awareness. Cheryl?
All what I was exactly going to say. And then we were going into the areas, but here, I'll tell you a little bit about my initial foray into Jade Egg, and I wasn't really sure what I was getting into. I knew Kim was teaching it. I'd read about it, and I had a car accident, and I was going through menopause. And so I actually had some bladder issues after my car accident. My urethra and my pelvic floor were damaged. And so the physical aspect of Jade Egg helps to strengthen pelvic floor. So for women that have had children, but also women that are aging and pelvic floor might be sagging. And the whole, oops, when you sneeze and cough as you age, you pee a little bit. So the Jade Egg actually helps with that physically. And then the other piece for me was that everyone told me as you're aging, well, you just dry up. Sex changes, you need to use lubricant. And I thought, this doesn't seem right to me. Mm-hmm. So when I started working with Kim, the practice was potent on the physical level. I noticed it within a week that I was juicier again. and all the women I've been working with, mostly 40s, 50s, 60s, and 70s, are having like,
I love it.
they're having orgasms again. Their husbands are sending me referrals.
Oh, wow.
So the physical aspect, yes. And also a big part of the physical component for me was a sexual assault piece that needed to be healed, because as women, our sacral chakra, our womb chakra, is kind of the dumping ground of emotions and trauma. And so with the Jade Egg, it kind of acts like, if you think of putting a tea bag in a cup and it absorbs water, so the Jade Egg actually acts like a poultice, pulls the energy of the trauma, of whatever it might be that's sitting in your yoni. That's the Sanskrit word for vagina. And then we take the egg out and we clear it, and we've taken that energy out. Past lovers, inappropriate touch, abuse, and so on. So I'm juicy again. I feel more. My orgasms have changed. I don't pee when I sneeze anymore. And so those are, and so a 20-year-old and a 50-year-old are different. A 50-year-old and a 20-year-old have completely different reasons for starting a Jade Egg practice. Kim, you're like chomping at the bit over here. We are so passionate about this practice.
Yeah. And I just love what you were saying. I wanted to share one thing, and that is I had my annual pap smear last week. And I have this great lady doctor, and she's got the speculum in, and she's looking, and she gets this look on her face, and she goes, "Kim, are you still doing your Jade Egg practice?" And I said, "Well, yeah, of course." She said, "You could tell your clients that your vaginal lining looks like you're 25.
Oh, all right.
I'm like, "That's a 25-year-old vaginal lining." So,
yeah.
And what I really appreciated, Cheryl, was that different women come in a different door. Like, there's lots of reasons. So I have a workshop coming up this weekend, in fact, and I have my youngest in the workshop is 22, and the elder in my workshop is 59. And it's everything in between, because there are all these different reasons to use the egg. When we go to the younger end of things, and where it helps with menstrual cramps and any kind of PMS symptoms, mood, not elevators, just keeping us a little more even keel. Yeah. It helps with all of that because it stimulates our hormone production.
And balances.
Yeah.
When I regularly do my Jade Egg practice, I don't have hot flashes.
Me
that
too.
was one of the first things that I noticed as well.
Yeah. There you go. Look at us taking a pause.
Yeah. There's so much.
Yeah. My mind was thinking, I'm like, oh, I'm going to ask him this, that. But just to pick on what Kim said about how people really the women come in really for like the physical aspects. But I'm sure after some time, because there's always something under, there's always layers.
Yes.
They realize that there's other type of work that they need to do. And so the Jade Egg practice kind of encompasses all of that. It's kind of a wholesome practice, if I could call it like that.
Or holistic, you might call it, because it's a whole system practice. And so they think they're coming for something physical, and then when they get here, they find out that a lot of the physical ailments that they're having are actually related back to different kinds of trauma, disconnect, cultural overlay. Our culture, I want to speak to that really quickly. Sex in our culture right now, sex sells, porn is super available. It's there's all of this, it's okay to be sexy, but don't show your breastfeeding breasts on Facebook. And so we have really hugely mixed messages about our sexuality. And one of the things that the egg really does is highlights for women where they've gotten conditioned in their sexuality in a way that does not serve anybody. Doesn't serve their highest, doesn't serve our community's highest. And so they end up doing a much deeper work that they didn't always know they came in to do. Yeah. And I'm always surprised about what comes up once they start their practice.
Oh. Well, and women aren't taught to spend that time. Like your yoni egg practice ends up being this meditation, this sacred time with self, where you can really move into your heart space, drop into your womb space. And that's why I call my workshops Womb Wisdom, because so much of our female essence, our feminine essence, the divinity of who we are as a female, our creativity, our power, our intuition stems from opening up this beautiful yoni area, and everything starts to change on so many levels as you address the mental, the emotional, physical, and spiritual. You never know. It depends on each person's history.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, that's so beautiful. And I wanted also to go to talk about what you said, Cheryl, about women who are around the menopausal age. We have this talking again about like society. This idea is when you grow older, it's the end all.
Right.
And no, it doesn't need to be that way. You're not. There's like this image of being asexual once you reach at a certain age, and it doesn't. We are always sexual beings throughout our entire lives, and there's always room to experience pleasure in whichever age that you are. So, because I know I've witnessed that there are some in our audience, there are some women that are a little bit older, and so I just thought it was important just to like bring that up and point that out. So yeah, that's it.
Did you want me to speak to that a little bit more?
Yeah, that would be awesome.
Well, what I've noticed with my clients, because they tend to be in the upper 40s, 50s, 60s, and early 70s, is that a lot of women are also single. And so the Jade Egg practice is for you. You don't have to have a partner. You can have self-pleasuring activity. You can have self-focus where you're really tuning in and honoring yourself. Because another part is that our society doesn't, women are multitasking and doing a million things. And when do we take time for ourselves to really move into that sacred space with self? And so the Jade Egg provides an opportunity for older women to rediscover possibly their sensuality and maybe even rediscover orgasm again. I had a woman who had her cervix removed, and she hadn't had a real orgasm in 7 years. And within a month of Jade Egg practice, she was having she called it old-fashioned orgasms again. So, what a partner or with a partner, without a partner, that's the beauty of a Jade Egg practice for women too. You can have this solo practice and start to, one of the pieces that Kim speaks about a lot in her workshops that I've sat in and learned from is that we've rarely been touched without agenda in our yoni. And so when we have a solo practice, we're coming into that space of honoring that part of us that is holy. It's not just tampons and clinical appointments and an agenda, but it's this sacred Jade Egg practice. So the Jade Egg is really a tool in a much larger picture.
Right. And I want to say something about that too, about those women who get a little bit older and all of a sudden their sex kind of dries up and they just let it go away and they are single. Part of magnetizing a partner is from that part of our body. It's why young women, right, they're juicy. They got hormones going. Their bodies want to make babies. Whether they want to make babies in their head or not, their bodies want to make babies. And that keeps them juicy, and it pulls the men in because men want to make babies too. They might not think they want to, but their bodies want to. And so as we do age, one of the things that dries up is that center. So keeping it alive actually magnetizes love to us, whether it be men or women that you're interested in, that we open up that creative sexual center, and now we begin to send back out those hormones of come this way, I still have some juice to give. And so keeping myself juicy, I'm planning on being juicy till I go out. And I'm not doing the dried up lady, I'm doing the juicy lady. And so the egg really supports us staying juicy. And so thanks for taking it back to that. Thanks.
Oh, yes, absolutely. That's so important. And Cheryl, I wanted to, Kim also can answer that question. Can a woman have sex while having her Jade Egg inside of her?
Great question.
Yes. And it can be sort of a pleasure tool, and it can be a lovemaking tool in foreplay play, but it can be. And one of the analogies I've heard is that, well, here's the thing.
Uh-huh.
Or the vaginal canal, you think that there isn't enough room in there, but just like what is the analogy used? Just like we can put an avocado pit in our cheek and have it expand, you can put a jade egg. Some people even might try 2 of the smaller size, and you can include that in your lovemaking. And for was that the question? Yeah, I know you want to add something to that.
Yeah, no, that was great. That's exactly what I'd say. What I was that the eggs, one of the things that make people nervous is the egg going to go in and get lost?
Yes.
If I have sex, is it going to get rammed up in there, or am I going to leave it up in there? But you actually don't. It does not get stuck, and it can't get lost. The vaginal canal is closed. It can't go anywhere. But it can, like that avocado pit in your cheek, get kind of wedged up in there, and you can't find it. You go in, put your fingers in, and go, oh my goodness, where'd my egg go? Because it can get pretty comfy up in there.
Yeah.
But your vaginal canal will ultimately contract and push it out.
Thank you for saying that.
So it's not going to get stuck, even though you might think it does. Now, I want to say, too, that there's 2 ways you can buy your egg. You can buy them whole, and they don't have a hole, or these, they have a little hole drilled in them so that you can put a piece of dental floss through there. And now you have a string like you do on a tampon. And so in the beginning days, when you're a little nervous about that, you have an egg. There you go. She's got her strung, and you have the ability to pull it out with the string. Ultimately, you want to learn how to bring the egg in without any hands, and you want to learn how to push it out without any string, because when your vagina gets that dexterous and deft and can move this egg up and down, it can move other things up and down also. And that's going to be better for everybody's pleasure if your vagina is moving things up and down, right?
Yeah, because we teach women about the 3 bands of muscle that exist there. And you can move your egg up and down within the vaginal canal and those 3 bands of muscle. And when you have a male partner and or an egg, you can start to navigate that. You can start to use those muscles in a whole different, profound, and exciting way. But the jade egg helps you get there.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Those muscles, like going to the gym.
Yeah.
So how do we choose one? Because I heard you talk about sizes also. So just to let people aware that there are different varieties. Wait, okay, something came up.
Yes.
You talk size, I'll talk type. How's that?
Okay.
Oh, that's a good idea. Thank you for Kim mentioning that it doesn't get stuck, because that just shows the importance of the need for us women to know our bodies and to name the different parts of our bodies, because things like that wouldn't pop up. We wouldn't think about that because the cervix opening is right there. So nothing's passing through there.
Right.
So,
including for women who perhaps have lost their cervix.
Yes.
It's still a closed unit. It still can't go anywhere. But what I do want to say is, if we do have any transgender people watching, it's critical that it is only used in a vagina. You may not use it in an anus, because it can get lost in an anus.
Yeah.
It's not a closed canal. It can climb on up there and now you're in trouble. But a vagina, it's not going to go anywhere.
That's funny, because when I talk to people about sex toys and what they want to do anal play, always have a flare base.
That's right. Got to have a flare base.
Yeah.
So size. Yeah. So typically, there's a couple of ways to find your egg. One is go to my website. I have great eggs on my website. They're high quality. They come from Canada. They're beautiful. But you can also look for eggs on the internet, on Google. What you want to be sure of is jadeite or nephrite is the recommended stone to begin with. It's becoming very popular for lots of different kinds of stone. Rose quartz, amethyst, they all have other properties in them. What jade has is, it is said to be the stone, and this is an ancient practice. This comes from Taoism, so this is thousands of years worth of use. And it is a stone that does detoxification, purification, and cleansing. So you want to clear out any darkness might be carrying. Vaginas are incredibly absorbent. They absorb, right? It's why you want to be really careful what goes in there. And when we take things in our vagina, and then we even take, if you're having sex with a man, you're taking the semen in, you are absorbing the energy and the mood and the attitude of that being. And so we want to keep our vaginas clean and clear and not take on other people's energies. And so Jade is the place to start. Did I just say what you were, I just said what you were going to say, didn't I, Cheryl? So then they come in small, medium, and large. The small ones are very small. Those are the ones that some people like to use 2 for, because they can actually bump and glide inside and create some other sensation. This is a medium size. This is good for anybody. This is the basic one. When you're looking, they call them medium, and it's really the size that you want to start with. And then there's a bigger size that, quite frankly, is very heavy, very hard onto, and very weighted. These are really just about the right size for just about any vagina to be able to hold on to. The older you are, the harder it is to hold on to for long periods of time. So it'll be different depending on your age and the plasticity of your own vagina.
Awesome. Is there anything you would like to add, Cheryl?
Oh my gosh. I was going to say that one of the first, I'm glad you covered the fact that the yoni, that the vaginal canal is closed. The other question that comes up a lot is people can't keep their egg in when they start.
Yeah.
You start to measure your progress very quickly with the Jade Egg practice by I kept it in for 10 minutes, or I could stand up. So we often suggest that women start by sleeping with your egg in so that you feel successful. And then eventually, maybe you can wear it all day. But so yeah, most people start with a medium egg, and Jade has been the traditional for thousands of years, Taoist practice, as she mentioned. Sometimes people will start to move into other types of eggs for different reasons, but you've got to be careful because there's some not so great quality eggs out there, and some of them crack. The reason why we use Jade is that it's non-porous. It would be pretty hard to crack this thing. And so you want something that you can easily cleanse every time you use it. So we don't reuse the egg. We don't reuse the floss that we use to string it. We always have a fresh, clean egg each time. And some people, it's important to start with Jade because it's the detoxifying stone. It's the heart-opening, grounding stone. So today I'm actually wearing a rose quartz. I can't show you, clearly. But rose quartz is also a heart-opening, calming stone. So it's peaceful. Black obsidian, you won't be able to tell, but black obsidian. So I only carry 3 on my website, and they're Canadian, and I'm Canadian. Black obsidian is when you want to go deeper. You've done some detoxifying, and now, I want to go deeper layers, maybe the shadow work, maybe stuff that's stuck in the subconscious, things I'm not aware of that could still be sitting there. And you can tell by your patterns and your mood when there's deeper work to be done. So, but for the most part, Jade is good across the board for anyone, and that's all you'd ever have to use. But people like to play and experiment, so.
Oh my gosh, I would love to continue the conversation. Unfortunately, we've come to the end of our interview. Oh my God, this is amazing, and I had so much fun with both of you as well. So, can you please share, talk about your gifts? Because I know each of you have a gift for our audience. So yes. Can you please talk about it, please?
Yes, and our gifts are so complementary because they work together in the category of repatterning, and really bringing in the positive aspects. As we're using our yoni and our sexual energy, we start to contemplate the positive, we create more positive in our life. So my gift is a 5-part email series on how to choose, prepare, use, bring, how to put it in, how to take it out, how to breathe with it, why you want to use what. And so it's a 5-part series, got a couple videos in there, and some resources in it. And so you go to my website, kimrosekeller.com, and you will see a sign up for my free gift, and you'll sign up for the 5-part free Jade Egg series, which while you're using your egg, you're going to want to use Cheryl's gift.
All right. And I didn't mention that the links are going to be under this video, so it's going to be easy for them to actually.
Okay, so we thought, let's not reinvent the wheel. I don't have to send out my Jade Egg info. Kim's already doing it. So I thought I would add in. So it is, I'm going to reach over. a color version of this book. It's called Whispers of the Soul. And I have an ebook color version that I've created. And it's a beautiful book. And it's really 360 days of inspiring quotes for wellness, passion, purpose. Because, as Kim said, we read pattern. And so that's providing support on a daily basis. Okay, how can I think positively? How can I move forward? Because our thoughts can be, this isn't working, I'm not sure. We get stirred up. So how can we maintain that equilibrium and find the support that way? So that's my gift.
Oh my gosh. Thank you so much, Cheryl and Kim, for this wonderful interview. I had an awesome time, and I'm sure the audience appreciate also the information that you just put out. So this is the end, and I would like to say thank you again and talk to you soon.
Thank you, Alex. It was great to be here with you. Thank you so much.
Thanks to everyone watching.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Bye-bye.